Today, I'm kind of walking down memory lane.
So, I'm sharing some Lady and Sons buffet favorites that a few of our celebrity guests have really enjoyed, like our tender and juicy pot roast. Then we keep them coming back for more with this popular side dish, mashed rutabagas.
Love them, love them, love them.
And next, a decadent classic,
And we're just gonna pile it up.
a Lady and Sons frozen chocolate mousse pie. And finally, Vidalia onion relish that's just perfect for those famous fried green tomatoes.
Let's dig in, y'all. And I'm gonna start by preparing our pot roast, which I cooked for somebody that I think is a very special human being, and that's Harry Connick Jr. His wife, Jill, they popped in the restaurant unexpectedly. And of course, they chose the buffet, and he just loved my pot roast. So what can I say? I'm gonna mix up now something that we're gonna rub our roast down with. I put in a half a teaspoon of black pepper, a teaspoon of seasoning salt, and 1 teaspoon of house seasoning. That's got our salt, our pepper, and our garlic. And I'm just gonna mix that all together. And I'm just gonna kind of rub this into our meat. And then I'm gonna brown it off. But so anyway, he really appreciated the flavors of that pot roast. I remember you asked if I was going to your concert, and I said, you know, I never was able to take the time to get out and get tickets. And he said, well, you've got tickets now. We're gonna flip him over and rub the other side down real good. So I kind of refer to this now as like the Harry Connick Jr. pot roast. Now I've got our pot roast rubbed. I'm gonna add just a little olive oil to my pan because we're gonna sear this off and kind of sear the flavorings in there. While this pan continues to heat, y'all, I'm gonna chop up this onion. And then in the pot he goes. All right, so we're gonna brown this off. And over here, I've got our onions ready to go in the pot. I've got a few cloves of garlic, and I'm just gonna kind of bust those up. And they don't have to be too tiny. And then I'm gonna prepare the liquids that's gonna really make a wonderful sauce for our pot roast. So I'm gonna start with a can of cream of mushroom soup, about 1/4 cup of a little red wine, a couple of tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce, a couple of teaspoons of beef bouillon granules, and then we're gonna be ready to just pour that over our pot roast when it's done browning. Here, and let's flip our roast. So there we go, look at that nice brown color, and ooh, because he looks about ready. All right. And I've got a few bay leaves here. So I'm just gonna throw our onion in with this roast, y'all, along with the garlic, and kind of let it kind of do its thing in the pot. All right, so let's move this on over here. And I'm just gonna roll those around with that olive oil that's got that chuck roast flavor in them. All right, so we're just gonna cut this off, pour that on top of our beef, throw in the bay leaves. Ooh. I'm gonna pour this on top of our roast, and this gravy is gonna be so good. Now I'm gonna add about 3/4 of a can of water, because I don't want to run short of gravy. Now we're just gonna cover that with tin foil. We're gonna put this in our oven at 350 for about 2.5 to 3 hours. I had a wonderful, wonderful surprise one night. Clint Eastwood and his adorable wife, Denise, came to the restaurant, and they chose to have the buffet. And that night, I had rutabagas on the buffet, which is one of my all-time favorite vegetables.
Now, to start this dish,
I'm using a stricoline to season our pot with. And stricoline is a shorter strip of meat, but it looks a lot like bacon. and it's called streakoline because it has that streak of lean in it. But it also has much more fat in it. It's just gonna season this pot unbelievably good. So now I'm just kind of cutting this up into pieces. So in the pot this goes, and I probably used about 5 slices. So all we have to do now is cover this with water, and I'm gonna let it cook, you know, and start getting tender on us. I'm gonna add a little salt, and this is gonna have some salt in it, the stricoline. So I'm gonna let that come to a boil, let that cook for 15 minutes. We got the Harry Connick Jr. pot roast in the oven, and next we're gonna get those wonderful Clint Eastwood rutabagas going.
Coming up, y'all, it's one of our buffet favorites, mashed rutabagas.
Love them, love them, love them.
Then, the dessert of choice, our frozen chocolate mousse pie. And later, I get geared up to make my Vidalia onion relish for those fried green tomatoes. I so hope y'all are enjoying the show. And if you do, be sure to click like, subscribe, and the notification bell so you'll never miss a video. And we'll be right back after the break.
Okay, while y'all were gone, I took the pot roast out of the oven. Look at this. Does that look delicious? Chuck roast has a lot of fat on it. You can see the grease sitting on top of this, and I really don't want all that grease. So I'm just gonna, you can't believe I said those words, can you? All right, so I'm just gonna skim that off. There we go. All right, he looks pretty good. Oh, gosh. And look how tender. Oh. So tender. All right, so I got our pot roast out, and I can see a few bay leaves, so I'm gonna take those off. Your gravy that comes off your pot roast, you know, don't fret if it's real thick or if it's real thin. We can fix it no matter what. I'm just gonna add a little bit of hot water to mine to just thin it down a little bit.
So I'm gonna start scooping out
this gravy. Doesn't that look wonderful? All right, so look at that. To me, that's just like the perfect consistency for gravy. So I've just got to have me a little bite. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So delicious. All right, well, let's move on to those rutabagas, y'all. Listen to them. It's like a rock. And you can see it's got a coating of wax on it to protect it. Now, you can try to do this a couple of different ways. You can just try peeling it, or you can use a paring knife. There's really no easy, quick way to do this. It smells very much like a turnip root off the turnip greens. Now, once you get it peeled, then we're gonna cut it in slices, and we're gonna cut it into strips, and then from there, we're gonna cube it. Too bad Michael's on the ship this morning. If he was here, I would certainly have him in here doing this job. I'm gonna add a little salt to our stricoline, and I'm gonna add one little teeny pinch of sugar. And now I'm adding some fresh cracked black pepper, and we're gonna just put our rutabagas in. And you can see that I have cut them in the style of a potato. So in the pot that goes, and we're gonna cover it and let it cook for about 45 minutes. All right, so let's move on down here to our dessert, and it's a frozen chocolate mousse pie. I just couldn't have a buffet meal without making a wonderful, sinful dessert. Now, I'm using a refrigerated pie crust. I love any pie that is frozen because the life of it, you know, is just nice and long. If I have like a chocolate cream pie, I feel like I have to eat the whole stinking pie, like in one setting to kind of get rid of it. I just love these refrigerated crusts. I swear I think they're a little flakier, and I'm just gonna fold that extra underneath the edge of the pie plate and just kind of crimp that edge up, but gives it a nice kind of finished homemade look to it. Now I'm gonna take my fork and I'm just gonna prick the bottom of my crust so that it won't blow up. I'm gonna bake this in the oven, 350 degrees, for 11 minutes. So, in the oven that goes, and when we come back, I'm gonna put that pie together. We're gonna see what our rutabagas are doing in their pot, and I'm probably gonna sample that pot roast one more time to make sure it's still good enough for Harry.
Up next, the most delicious frozen chocolate mousse pie you've ever put in your mouth.
So good.
And later, top off your fried green tomatoes, child, with this Vidalia onion relish. I hope y'all are enjoying the show, and I want to hear from you. Tell me what recipes or videos you'd like to see me make by just leaving a short comment below. Now, let's get back to the show, y'all.
Our celebrity meal is getting very, very close to being complete. Look in that pot. With that stricoline, the way we minced it up, it's just like all through those rutabagas. Oh, I just love it. So, because I'm gonna mash these, I'm gonna pour off just a little bit of that liquid. Now, if I left them cubed, it wouldn't matter. But because I'm gonna mash them, and I'm gonna use just an old-timey potato masher. This just reminds me of Mama and the way I ate them as I was growing up. I'm gonna add a little bit of butter. That's really not much, but it's enough to give it a nice buttery flavor. All right, now I'm gonna add a little bit more cracked black pepper. I think they could stand just a little bit more salt. I'm just gonna transfer those now, y'all, to the bowl. Those are ready to eat. Beautiful color. I just want a little bit kind of melt down over them. Love them, love them, love them. Well, something else I adore, our frozen chocolate mousse pie. I'm gonna use 1 tablespoon of chocolate cream liqueur. Smells so good, not overpowering. All right, I'm gonna add 3 tablespoons of heavy cream. We're gonna get a little liquid going in our pot because we wanna melt our chocolate chips, and they're just gonna melt a lot easier for us if they've got a little liquid in there. All right, so 2 cups of semi-sweet chocolate chips into our pot, and this is not gonna take but a minute for those little pieces of chocolate to melt for us. See how that little bit of cream is helping loosen up those chips? You'll want to be careful not to have your eye too high because you don't want to scorch that chocolate. And it's almost melted. And look how that's smoothing out on us. So that was easy enough, wasn't it? And we've just got one more ingredient, And that's about a teaspoon of vanilla flavoring. That's gonna give it a nice little extra kick to it.
I'm gonna give it a quick mix, y'all, and then let it cool.
Now down here, y'all, I have 1 quart of heavy cream, and I'm gonna sweeten it by adding
3 cups of powdered sugar. That's 1, and I'm just gonna beat it for a quick second.
All right, so let's come on back in now and add our last 2 cups of powdered sugar. 2 and 3, and this looks like a lot of sugar, doesn't it, y'all? But it's really not all that much. And then we're just gonna continue to whip that until they form nice kind of medium stiff peaks. And then we're gonna fold in that chocolate. Just that simple. The longest part to making this pie is folding in our chocolate. And remember, we use semi-sweet chocolate pieces, so it will take every bit of that sweetened sugar to make this pie. And we're gonna fold it into our cream. And you'll wanna kinda have a rather gentle hand with this. I don't want my cream to lose all that airiness that I put in it by whipping the cream. And you can see it's starting to work in, and I just go down and up and over until all that chocolate is incorporated into that cream. So it looks great. And let's see how it tastes. And now we're just gonna transfer this to our cooked pie shell, and we're just gonna pile it up. In that goes, and I can't stand little old skimpy looking pies, y'all. I like tall pies, so I'm gonna just take my spatula and I'm gonna shape this kind of like a dome. The last thing I'm gonna do to our pie is grab me a handful of chocolate chips, and I'm just gonna sprinkle them on top of that pie. Just like that. Just gonna cover it with a plastic wrap and pop this in our freezer for about 2 hours until it's had a chance to freeze.
Coming up, y'all, keep your fried green tomatoes company, y'all, with our Vidalia onion relish. I so hope y'all are enjoying the show. And if you do, be sure to click like, subscribe, and the notification bell so you'll never miss a video. And we'll be right back after the break.
Fried green tomatoes, y'all. I'm gonna share with y'all today how we make this at the Lady and Sons and how simple and easy it is and how delicious. The first thing you wanna do is start with a clean green tomato. It's simply a red tomato that has not ripened on the vine. Now, the first thing that I would do after I've sliced my tomato is sprinkle this with salt. We're gonna run it through a little buttermilk. And from the buttermilk
Into flour seasoned with a little black pepper.
and then into the deep fryer. And you wanna fry them until they're a nice golden brown. I so enjoy these fried green tomatoes. But I especially love them with an onion relish that we serve with our fried green tomatoes at the Lady and Sons. And we're gonna be using 2 whole onions. One of them has been diced, but they really smell a little strong. So if y'all don't mind, I'm gonna pull out my onion goggles, which have a nice line of foam that will seal my eyes and keep those onions from burning my eyes and making me cry. So let's finish up our onions. And we're just gonna dice these up. So dice, dice, dice. And let's put that in our bowl. Couple of tablespoons of chives. And then we're gonna add about a 1/2 cup of mayonnaise. 2 tablespoons of brown sugar, and we're gonna add about a 1/2 cup of our rice wine vinegar. So there we go. Okay, I think we're safe now. And I've got one, y'all, that I already have ready that has been in the refrigerator for a little while. And those flavors have married together. All right, so let's come in here and get us a few tomatoes. And we'll spoon a little relish on top of them. And let's dig in, y'all. And by using the buttermilk, y'all, on our tomatoes, it's giving them a real crispy coating. So good. I love the vinegar flavor with that mayonnaise and onions. It's so good. Well, look on up here, y'all. That beautiful frozen chocolate mousse pie. Here we're getting the added bonus of that nice crust. Tastes like the richest, most velvety chocolate ice cream.
Hey, y'all, it's Paula Deen. Now, if y'all enjoyed this week's full episode Friday, be sure to like it and click the subscribe button as well as the notification bell to be alerted when I post a video. Love and best dishes, friends.